This week, D.C. Democrat Judge James Boasberg ruled against Donald Trump by placing a temporary restraining order against him that says, for the next 14 days, the administration cannot deport any illegal aliens who are members of the violent Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang. This has created a constitutional crisis, as 2 planes had already left U.S. airspace. Donald Trump is in trouble. The judge said about the plane flights, "I will get to the bottom of whether they violated my word and who ordered this and what's the consequence." This judge could start throwing people in jail as soon as tomorrow. Let's start with a timeline of what happened. On January 20th, 2021, Joe Biden became president. He began an open border policy that encouraged illegal immigrants to cross the border and even provided them with government assistance, like free luxury hotel rooms. It is difficult to say how many illegal immigrants came in, but estimates range from 4 million to 10 million people under Joe Biden. The most horrible example relates to the Tren de Aragua gang from Venezuela. This is a violent gang known for rape and murder. Members of this gang were responsible for the murder of nursing student Laken Riley and the murder of 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungaray. Also, members of this gang have been engaged in sex trafficking. 8 gang members were just arrested for running a sex trafficking operation out of hotel rooms in Nashville from 2022 to 2024. It has been reported that the gang is operating sex trafficking operations in at least 8 different states. But it gets even worse. They are sex trafficking children. The exact number is hard to determine, but during 2022, out of 1,390 Venezuelan women rescued from trafficking networks, 284 were girls and adolescents. 20% of them were children. But it gets even worse. This gang has direct ties to the Venezuelan government. Specifically, in 2017, the vice president of Venezuela was the same person who used to be the governor of the region the gang is from. It is likely this gang is coordinating their actions with the highest levels of the Venezuelan government. But it gets even worse. The gang took over the Gateway Hotel in El Paso, Texas. Surveillance cameras showed the gang members wielding knives, a hatchet, and firing a gun in the hall. This is the same gang that started taking over apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado. We have video of them going door to door with guns, breaking into the apartments. One renter was away on vacation. They came back home to find gang members living in their apartment. The government would do nothing to make the gang members leave, and the renter had to go find another place to live. The owner of the apartment building came to ask the gang members why they were illegally squatting in the building. They beat him up, and he is only alive because he managed to escape. These are horribly violent criminals. They are going house to house with guns, and they might be coming to your house next. There's only one man who can stop them: Donald J. Trump. On January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump was sworn into office. One of the main reasons he was elected was to stop illegal immigration. In fact, it is his most popular policy, with 80% support from the public. He immediately started increasing protections at the border and performing raids to round up illegal aliens. On Saturday, March 15th, 2025, 5 Venezuelan illegal immigrants in custody filed a lawsuit in D.C. In the lawsuit, they claimed that they were worried that Trump was about to issue a proclamation under the Alien Enemies Act and deport them. The case was assigned to Judge Boasberg, who scheduled an emergency hearing on Saturday that same day. 2 plane flights were already underway carrying members of the Tren de Aragua gang. Judge Boasberg gave verbal instructions during the hearing that, "You shall inform your clients of this immediately, and that any plane containing these folks that is going to take off or is in the air needs to be returned to the United States. But those people need to be returned to the United States. However that's accomplished, whether turning around a plane or not embarking anyone on the plane or those people covered by this on the plane, I leave to you. But this is something that you need to make sure is complied with immediately." But to add to the confusion, Judge Boasberg published a written order at 7:25 p.m. with slightly different instructions, saying, "The government is enjoined from removing members of such class, not otherwise subject to removal, pursuant to the proclamation for 14 days, or until further order of the court." You will notice in the written instructions that there was no mention of turning planes around. Another interesting fact to note is that the government testified that none of the 5 people who sued were on the planes. The people on the planes were other gang members from Venezuela. The judge expanded the case. During the emergency hearing, the judge decided that the complaint not only covered the 5 people suing, it would now cover all illegal immigrant gang members from Venezuela, which would include all the people on the planes. But the planes had already left. The first one departed at 5:26 p.m. and the second departed at 5:45 p.m. So when the written order was given at 7:25 p.m., the planes were already in international airspace. The planes landed in El Salvador and dropped off all the illegal immigrant gang members at a prison facility there. The U.S. is paying El Salvador an annual fee for their incarceration. This raises additional questions. These gang members have never been charged with a crime or convicted. So why are they being held in prison? Who is holding them? The U.S., El Salvador, or Venezuela? Why are they not letting them go free back in Venezuela? Judge Boasberg was furious, which is when he threatened the administration that he would get to the bottom of who violated his order. The government maintains that no orders have been violated. The people on the plane had already been deported. I think it is important to be clear about what the judge was asking. There were 2 planes in international airspace full of murderers and rapists. Why was this judge ordering the President of the United States to fly 2 planes full of murderers and rapists into the U.S.? This judge does not have the authority to force the president to do that. Besides the fact that it is a horrible and deeply disturbing thing to demand. The judge's written order only refers to future deportations under the Alien Enemies Act, which the government has complied with. And the government has said that the 5 people who sued were not on the planes. The government has filed their response claiming that they did not violate the judge's orders. The lawyers for the gang members have until Monday to file their motion in response. At that point, on Monday, the judge will make a decision whether Donald Trump violated a court order. Democrats dream that at this point they will be able to arrest Donald Trump and throw him in jail. I hate to disappoint them, but that's not going to happen. It is clear in the law that Donald Trump has criminal and civil immunity because he is the president. This judge cannot do anything to Donald Trump, but he certainly can throw the president's cabinet in prison. He can arrest Pam Bondi, Marco Rubio, and Kristi Noem and hold them in prison for 6 months. Now, Donald Trump could pardon them, but Judge Boasberg would probably contest the pardons all the way to the Supreme Court. During the appeals process, which would probably take 6 months, a large portion of Trump's cabinet would be sitting in prison. On this channel, I always want to be fair and balanced. So let us explore whether this judge has a point. On Monday, the judge issued a lengthy opinion explaining why he was upholding his temporary restraining order. The case basically hinges on 3 main elements. 1, the Alien Enemies Act cannot be used if there is no war. 2, the illegal aliens claim they are not even in the gang. 3, it is unhumanitarian to send someone to a country where they may face torture. Let's break these down. For number 1, it seems clear to me and most of Americans that there is a war going on. Americans are being physically attacked by foreign invaders. We have video of them going house to house with guns. That looks like a war to me. Yes, the government needs to round this gang up and send them out of the country, and most of America agrees with me. But whether it is a war or not, that's up to the president to decide, not the judge. Who does this judge think he is? that he alone gets to decide what does or does not qualify as a war. His third argument about being unhumanitarian just makes me mad. The judge thinks it is unhumanitarian because the conditions in Venezuela for these people are so bad. Excuse me? What about the Americans that are dying? These gang members are brutally murdering Americans. Do you remember those little girls? They are dead. How can this judge justify being more concerned with these gangsters than the lives of Americans? What about giving some humanitarian aid to our own country? In the judge's written opinion, he admits that the second argument is the strongest, that the illegal aliens are claiming that they are not in the gang. Basically what happened is the police arrested all of these people, and once everyone was in jail, they started saying, no, we're not in a gang, we swear. Are these people lying? And who gets to determine whether they are lying? Is it the court's job to do that? Let me explain how the government determines whether someone is in a gang. The police has a file for each person who is identified as a gang member. These are the methods they use to make that determination. Previous criminal convictions for gang-related activities, other court records indicating membership in the gang, surveillance, law enforcement encounters, interviews with the gang member, testimonies and statements from victims of the gang member, evidence that the alien had committed crimes in coordination with known members of the gang, evidence that the alien had committed sophisticated financial transactions with known members of the gang, computer indices checks, and admission of gang membership by the alien. That sounds pretty thorough to me. This was not random people getting rounded up. They knew who these gang members were. I really don't know how this judge can argue that these people may not be in a gang when some of them have openly admitted that they are in the gang. That logic makes no sense to me. So it really comes down to whether the government determines if they're in a gang or if the court has to hold a trial for each illegal immigrant to determine if they are lying about being in a gang. I just have to point something out here. Both sides agree that these are illegal immigrants from Venezuela. There's no argument about that fact. These are not U.S. citizens. They have no citizenship rights. Why are we even talking about this? Our country is under attack by these people. Let's send them back to Venezuela. If they want to apply for asylum, they can do it at the U.S. Embassy in Venezuela. I think the biggest issue in this case is the D.C. courts. Judge appointments are political, and D.C. is heavily Democrat. In the 2024 election, D.C. voted 90% for Kamala Harris. So everything that Donald Trump does is getting sued in a D.C. court in front of Democrat judges. They're always going to rule against Donald Trump. This problem could be easily fixed. You just change the jurisdiction of any political case to a court outside of D.C. Let's hear these cases in a different state. This could be a simple law that gets passed in Congress that allows politically related trials to happen outside of D.C. We saw this problem again on Wednesday when Trump's attorneys appealed Judge Boasberg's decision to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. The appeals court ruled against Trump and upheld Judge Boasberg's order. This is against the Constitution. Americans are guaranteed a fair trial. If we keep hearing political cases in D.C., we're all just wasting our time. The decisions are all rigged and decided ahead of time to be whatever the Democrats want. This is not right, and it's a violation of every American's rights in the rest of the country. Congress needs to pass a law to prevent this. Then something strange happened about this case. Donald Trump posted on social media that Judge Boasberg should be impeached. Then the Supreme Court Judge John Roberts issued a rare public statement.
Trump labeling Judge James Boasberg a radical left lunatic. prompting the Chief Justice to write, quote, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision." This after the president used the 18th century Alien Enemies Act to deport what DHS says included Tren de Aragua gang members to a prison in El Salvador. Boasberg had verbally ordered the flights to turn around, but the White House says it complied with his written order that did not include those instructions.
This was very unusual. We just went through 4 years of Joe Biden breaking numerous laws as president, and John Roberts never issued a public statement rebuking Joe Biden. Why is it that he is now attacking Donald Trump? This was a signal from the Supreme Court that they're not necessarily going to back Donald Trump on these cases. There is something you need to know about John Roberts. Before he was a Supreme Court judge, he used to partner at a law firm called Hogan and Hartson. That firm merged and is now called Hogan Lovells. This is the same law firm that has been involved in partisan lawsuits attacking Trump's executive orders. Do you remember when Donald Trump issued an executive order stopping transgender surgeries on children? The law firm of Hogan and Lovells is representing the plaintiffs in the lawsuit to overturn Donald Trump's executive order. Not only that, they're doing it pro bono. That means they're doing it for free. They are so determined to sterilize children and chop off their genitals that they are filing lawsuits against Trump for free. I don't understand why these people are so determined to perform these surgeries on children. These are John Roberts' former law partners. Donald Trump has been taking away security clearances and canceling contracts for the law firms engaging in these partisan lawsuits. Is John Roberts' statement part of this battle between Trump and his former firm? Donald Trump then went on Fox News, saying that multiple people are now calling for Judge Boasberg's impeachment.
But many people have called for his impeachment, the impeachment of this judge. I don't know who the judge is, but he's radical left. He was Obama appointed. And he actually said we shouldn't be able to take criminals, killers, murderers, horrible, the worst people, gang members, gang leaders, that we shouldn't be allowed to take them out of our country. Well, that's a presidential job. That's not for a local judge to be making that determination. And I thought it was terrible. In fact, he said when they were well on their way, there was an order issued, as I understand it, to bring them back or to not let them go or something. And this is not something that the country would stand for. These people, they were let in here by an incompetent president who had open borders, and anybody throughout the world could come in. And we were given murderers, we were given people from mental institutions and prisons.
Now, there's not enough votes in Congress to impeach a judge, so Judge Boasberg is not going to be impeached. But I think we need to ask ourselves why John Roberts is getting so involved in this case. It turns out that John Roberts belongs to a secret society with Judge Boasberg and several other radical liberal judges. John Roberts is a member of a secret society in the UK called the Middle Temple, which has received funding from George Soros. This secret society created a branch in the US called the Edward Bennett Williams Inn of Court that Judge Boasberg and the other radical liberal judges belong to. Are these judges coordinating their actions through this secret society? The United States has a long history with secret societies like the Illuminati. Another infamous secret society is called Skull and Bones. Both George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush were both members of Skull and Bones. What is even crazier is that presidential candidate John Kerry was also a member of Skull and Bones. So in the 2004 presidential election, both candidates were a member of this secret society. Does anyone else find that strange? Guess who else was a member of Skull and Bones? Judge Boasberg. People are concerned that the elite use secret societies to overturn the will of the people. That is why there are so many laws in the U.S. that mandate that government action must be taken in public, not in secret. In fact, John F. Kennedy warned us of the dangers of secret societies.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
He was trying to warn us that a group of elites could conspire in secret to do something like kill a sitting president. We probably should have listened to John F. Kennedy. So, is John Roberts using his secret society connections in a conspiracy against Donald Trump? It turns out that John Roberts personally appointed Judge Boasberg to oversee the FISA court that illegally spied on Trump. In fact, John Roberts oversaw all 11 FISA court warrants. This was a conspiracy to overthrow the president. John Roberts also has some disturbing facts about his adopted children.
I mean, why does John Roberts have 2 adopted children from freaking Wales? I don't have 2 adopted children from Wales. And he can't find the paperwork to prove that he adopted them?
What, really?
That's right, friend. That's right.
What?
That's right.
What do you mean he can't find the paperwork?
Well, he can't find the paperwork for the adoption of the 2 children from Wales. I'll leave it at that. See, why do you go to Wales to adopt children? Let me ask you that, Tim. If you were going to adopt children...
From Latin America.
Latin America.
Ireland born, but adopted through Latin America.
Okay.
Because Ireland has strict adoption laws.
That's right.
They were private and conducted illegally, but they drew media scrutiny during a Supreme Court confirmation.
That's where I got it.
No wrongdoing was ever found.
Well, draw your own conclusions.
It has never been disclosed exactly where the kids came from, but allegedly, 2 children were born in Ireland. Then John Roberts took them to some country in Latin America, potentially Brazil, where the adoption took place. Isn't that strange? I don't know what you think, but to me, this sounds an awful lot like trafficking children. What is even more strange is that on the Jeffrey Epstein flight logs that have been released, the name John Roberts appears multiple times. Is this the same John Roberts from the Supreme Court? Is John Roberts hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein on his island where they trafficked children to the elite? A bigger question we should ask, did Jeffrey Epstein help John Roberts get his children? Where did those children come from? This court case is about the Tren de Aragua gang, and if you remember, they are also involved in child trafficking. Is it just me, or are all these stories starting to connect with each other? Is the reason that Joe Biden allowed the Tren de Aragua gang into the country was because they were trafficking children to powerful Democrats? Is the reason that Judge Boasberg is working so hard to protect these gang members is because he is secretly working with the gang to traffic children to his Democrat friends in his secret society? Is Judge Boasberg working for the gangs? Judge Boasberg seems to be deeply compromised. His wife, Elizabeth Liddy Manson, is the founder of an abortion NGO called Meadow Reproductive Health and Wellness. Liddy Manson also serves on the board of another NGO called Verite that works on fair labor standards for global corporations. Here's a screenshot showing her as the president. The judge's daughter works for a 501c3 group called Partners for Justice. Here's her bio on their website. Their website says they provide immigration legal expertise. The judge's daughter is giving legal advice to illegal immigrants. Here's the IRS form for the nonprofit for the last year. Most of their funding comes from government grants. Is all of Trump's cost cutting putting the judge's daughter at risk? Don't you think all of this is a conflict of interest? Can someone please explain to me why all these judges have family members that happen to operate government NGOs? Something seems really crooked about this judge.
The D.C. Circuit is notorious for having a very far-left bias. And when you look at the people close to some of these judges, where are they working? Oh, they're working at these NGOs. Oh, they're the ones getting this money. Does that seem like a system that lacks corruption? It sounds like corruption to me.
I think Donald Trump is in trouble. I don't think a lot of people realize the level of corruption that Donald Trump is fighting against. They are all out to get him. But I think there is something that could help. There's a law called the Patriot Act. This was passed after the horrible acts in September of 2001. We Americans have been living under the horrors of this law ever since. It allows the government to spy on Americans, take away our rights, all so that the government could protect us from domestic threats. Isn't that exactly what is happening here? Judge Boasberg is engaging in suspicious activities related to an actual foreign invasion force. Why are we not using the Patriot Act? Judge Boasberg should be classified as an enemy combatant and investigated. If John Roberts used the FISA courts to spy on Donald Trump, we can investigate this judge. I want to know his phone records, his bank records, and everything he is doing in these meetings with his secret society. Because it looks an awful lot like he's working for the gangs and against the American people. As soon as tomorrow, Judge Boasberg can rule that Donald Trump violated his orders and start throwing his cabinet members in prison. I think his rulings will show us if Judge Boasberg is really working for the gangs. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think that Judge Boasberg's actions are suspicious? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like these videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. If you find these videos helpful, the best way you can support the channel is to sign up for a monthly membership on my website, wolvesandfinance.com. For $6 a month, your support helps me to keep making these videos. Thank you to everyone who has signed up. I'm Zach from Wolves and Finance. Thank you for watching.